Cool. Should be going. All right. Hey, all you RMN fiends, you nostalgic seeking individuals like myself. This is the first video I'm making. I just thought I would um, tell you a little bit about Onix Rift, the development, where I'm at with it. I don't get to it as much these days. I got the kid, I got a 4-year-old, and the girlfriend, and we take care of her younger sister. She's 14, so she's in the house too. So I just don't get all that much development time. My best chance is first thing in the morning for maybe an hour or two, and then it's midnight right now, and I decided to try to fire this up and see what I could do. Okay, so Onix Rift, done a few changes recently. For the most part, I when I get a chance, just because doing all the pixel art that goes in with the game is what eats up a lot of the time. So really my development time that I've been doing is basically I'll just open up I use MS Paint, which it's not the most productive, but I've used it for so long. I'm more productive on it than with, say, I also have Sprite, which I just recently started using, and I don't primarily draw in Sprite, but what it is fantastic with is I'll import, I think this is the same sheet I was looking at in MS Paint right here. And I'll import it into Sprite, and then I'll have a sprite sheet that has all my different frames. And I'll go over here and copy what if I'm working on this guy, see right here, I have a good example. I got his down. He's got this little frog tongue whip, a little sneak peek into one of the upcoming weapon items in the game. So we got his down animation for slinging that tongue, and then his up animation. Let's see, sorry, I'm all over the place with this. And then his up animation, and then his facing right, and then obviously facing left is just a mirror image of that facing right. But this is just a sketch pad. That's kind of my process. I'll just get a big sketch pad, and because I, just his character movements that I've been animating, I'll take anything I use, let's say all of his sword animations, stuff that I've drawn for that, I'll take that sprite, edit it, maybe minor details, I'll erase the sword, and then I'll do a separate drawing of, let's say, this tongue lash, the little whip, and then I'll add those into different sprites. So this is edited a bit, him going straight out, straight back, but not much from a different picture I've drawn with the sword. And I haven't used all the images that I've drawn with the sword in game, but I draw them and have them just for this. When something comes up and I think, oh, I need to come up with some new animations for this guy using a whip, I've got a lot of stuff to work with just because I'll doodle around and it's not even really anything intended to be in the game. I'm not working on it for something specific, but in the future I have a huge database to draw from. And this is one of a few sketch pads with my hero in Onix Rift. He doesn't have a name. He never does. Kind of more started as my daughter was born, and I got into RPG Maker while my girlfriend was pregnant, and we're back into it. I hadn't touched it in 15 years since I was a kid. And it was something to pass time when work was slow, and I just didn't really have an idea for a game. I knew I wanted to make kind of an RPG style game. So I decided, well, hey, I'll make something about a guy whose daughter gets stolen by some monsters and he's got to go after them and save them. So at some point, the hero, I was just calling him Tyler. And then, down the line, I thought, well, I want it to appeal to more people than I don't want them to have to associate with me to play the game and enjoy it. I want the player to be like an avatar for them if they are into that sort of thing to get into the game. So I took the names out. The baby's name used to be Mila. That's my daughter's name, but just took that out. So it's nameless hero, nameless kid, but you're after it. Everyone can relate to that. You got a loved one that's missing. Got to go after them. So that's what that is. But yeah, back to the sprite work. So I'll use a sprite. I'll bring the whole sheet in. And then I have this that has my however many frames animation. So right now, this is, for example, wanted to come up with something. I wanted to redo my item use because I don't want individual, if you're using in the game what a healing item is, a cobalt heart. If you're using that, right now I have like an animation for a cobalt heart item, and then a different animation for like a juju. I can't remember what I called it, a juju sphere, I think, animation. And it's fine, but I wanted a unanimous animation that, like, when your guy uses an item, it'll just show this animation every time, and something to represent just any item. And so it's going to be, one of these, like a sparkle that disappears, something like that. So right now I was just doodling that on a pad. I don't even know if this will be the one that I end up using, but this is animation or frames 1 through 6. So this is what Aseprite I find is really good for, is I'll do my animations in MS Paint because that's where I'm productive at. And then just not proficient with Aseprite is all. I'm getting better as far as working with frames, but I just haven't put the time in, dude. I've been drawing with MS Paint for 20 years, so it's just that's what I'm used to. I know some of the hotkeys for it. I just know what's going to do what, and it's missing a lot of features. I already, play on Aseprite for 10 minutes, and you'll find features that, wow, this would be handy if MS Paint had it, but because I can never remember, what hotkey does what, it turns into being less productive at the moment. If I would just commit some time and learn it, I'm sure it'd be great. But this is what I use it for, just the frames. I don't have to. Before Aseprite, which was just a month or two ago, I ended up getting it. It was always I would work in MS Paint. I'd have all my animations, and then I would sit there and this would be one file, one character frame is one file. This guy's one file. This guy's one file, like a picture file. And then I'd have to upload all of those I'd have to import them into the engine. RPG Maker 2K3 is what we're working with. And then I have to actually event program in where on the screen he's going to be swinging, and I'd have to do all that to be able to see the animation live. So that's where Aseprite has turned into like a godsend. It's great. I would recommend it. I'm sure most of you guys are already using that or something similar, and you're like, why is this guy using MS Paint? Well, 33, man. It's the only thing I know. So a few things I've just recently worked on, and I think for some reason, man, I've always been bothered by an Onix Rift. I've always been bothered by, never been quite happy with my hero, his walking animation. And the other day, I decided to commit. I was just sitting there with some free time, thought I would do some animations of him walking, and I decided, well, you know what? Maybe, because RPG Maker 2003's movement is kind of janky anyways, dude. You move in these 16 pixel, it's tile movement. So you move in these 16 pixels by 60. You press over once and you move 16 pixels over. And I thought, well, you're moving pretty quick across the screen no matter what. And I thought maybe that's why it's so odd to me watching and playing. And your guy's taking these little steps, but one step moves you a giant tile. And I thought, well, I'll just make him running all the time. And it kind of suits the game. I think from the very opening scene, his kid gets stolen. And so from there, it's just balls to the wall, man. He's going to try to save his kid. So I went through and did these running animations. And here's, just to show you, right here on the screen, we got him running right, his down. And this was all, I drew it on here, and then again went back to Aseprite to check them before I actually uploaded it into the game. And and I saw, I changed a few things, finally got a little routine of frames that I liked. And then from there, it was easy. I just put them on character sheets, or what are they called? Character sets. And, excuse me. So in game, we went from him walking kind of wonky, which anyone that's played the game has seen his walk, and it's not the worst. It's just, it never really suited it. I'll just do a quick test play. I didn't queue up. This was kind of an impromptu video. I wish I had queued up an older version so I could show you what his walk looked like before. Let's turn the volume down. I don't want to hear it that loud. Okay, so we'll just hit up this one. This is just a save, one of my many save files from the thousands of test plays I do. Okay, so instead of walking, he's got this run animation, which I think it it adds something. It just looks better, I think. He's running around instead of just taking these tiny steps, moving tile by tile. So it, even especially with the diagonal movement. And something else you'll notice that I've recently worked on is before I had this pretty. It was basically I couldn't tell you how many pixels, but there was a square. Oops. So basically, right around where the hero was at, he could move freely to the right, to the left, up and down, and he would almost go to the edge of the screen before the screen would pan over and follow you. And originally, I got some feedback. Actually, shout out to, I think it's Kempfer and then Dragonheart Man. They were a couple guys that jumped in right when I uploaded, and they were pretty helpful, man. So shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all your advice. But they didn't care for that. And this is up in the air. I actually think it looks really good. So I was pretty happy with the run animation, how it turned out looking. Especially with the diagonal movement, it just feels a little better. I think it's funny how just having a different visual makes it look better. But on top of that, I think it looks pretty good with my new pan screen. So basically, there's no enemies around. So whenever there's an enemy on screen, there's a little radius around that enemy. That when you get so close, there's a switch that turns on, so the game knows I'm near enemy number one. So right now I have the screen pan to where it's a pretty small little. You can see it. He can move a step or two before the screen moves. So it's super. It kind of fixed that problem of being too far out on the edge of the screen to where you're running into enemies. But that was actually that was kind of pre-designed. A lot of inspiration from games like Secret of Mana is a big one. I played that a lot when I was a kid with my brother. And that does that in that game. And I didn't understand why when I started making this they did that, but I did know I like it. And now I kind of understand. I've read a lot about that game and those old school games. And Secret of Mana, basically what I've found is that because of the multiplayer, that was the way they set the panning up to allow freedom of movement between two players to an extent on the screen without it having to follow the player one the whole time. It gives them a little freedom for each player to move individually instead of being tied to player one or player two. So they actually had a legitimate reason for it. I didn't, other than aesthetics. So what I've done here is I invented a whole panning scheme where if you're on the screen and there's no enemies, you have this just a little tiny window of movement before the screen moves. And I like that personally. But when there's an enemy on screen, I'll just run to a little area with an enemy on screen. Oh, I just love it, dude. I love my guy's little running animation. It looks so much better than the walk. And I'm seeing a little lag. Those of you that have played it, I think it's pretty solid as far as it doesn't really lag too bad. But right now I'm recording my screen. I'm playing RPG Maker. I got Audacity recording this, so I'm sure my computer's, trying to support a lot of apps going on. So let's just get Hydro Road. Let's get where there's some enemies. So here we go. I got free movement. The camera's going to do its thing and follow me. But when I get to an enemy, it slows the panning down. So it almost forces the player to lock on. Like you got an enemy there and you have to either really commit and fight it, or if you're going to run off and get the screen to keep moving, you have to get to the edge of the screen before it starts moving again. And so I think it looks pretty good. And it kind of encourages the player into combat. See that? Once I get so far away from him, that screen recognizes, that switch turns off that says I'm near an enemy, and it goes back to focusing on the hero. And then when you get back close to the enemy, that screen pan slows down again, and then you got to get close to the edge of the screen for it to move. So I ended up really liking how it turned out, and I'm interested to upload a new version and maybe get some feedback on that. So hopefully anybody watching the video, take some time, download Onix Rift, give it a play, and tell me what you think. And hopefully you guys like it. I expect to hear the same as far as I think people aren't going to be too crazy about once the enemies are on screen, you have to run to the edge of the screen. I almost see it as more of, it's an action RPG. And it's almost the escape feature. It's like you're encouraged to fight when you come up to an enemy, but there's still the option to get away. But with escaping, it increases the risk of maybe you don't know what you're running into, getting out of there as the player. So another reason to kind of try to encourage the player to into combat. So let's get away from these guys. Got to push the screen, get over here. And yeah, I swear it's not this laggy normally when I'm playing. I'm seeing a lot of screen skip. I've heard that when you do screen recording, and maybe I really don't know what I'm talking about, guys, as far as that goes. I've never done it. This is the first time I've done it. And I'm using Wondershare to do it. I think it's a pretty, I don't think it's necessarily efficient to record your screen with Wondershare. It's kind of a robust program. Come on, get out of there. See, and you go through this screen with a lot of enemies. It's kind of more of a, it's kind of, I don't know, it increases the danger factor. I kind of like it, and I think it looks pretty good. A little bit of an issue right now. I haven't dug any deeper, really. That's kind of, didn't have time with, I never want you disappearing off the screen, and like that, in that last map, you get enough enemies, and you're close enough to the edge of the screen where it's trying to slow down, and you actually run off screen for a minute. It didn't happen there, but it's not bad, I guess. But it has happened in test playing in the last couple days. But it does. It feels almost like a little smarter pan than just the typical centering on the hero all the time. And I think it looks kind of good, in my opinion. You guys let me know what you think. I've also been doing a lot of work with, I got a lot of feedback over some of the bosses. So there's only 2 bosses that are actually coded. I have another one in the works right now. But there's the Boom Bloom in the cave, and then the eagle at the mountain that took your kid initially at the beginning of the game. And so basically it took kind of a Chrono Trigger approach. I really think, anyone that's played those games knows Chrono Trigger is considered a masterpiece, and just the way that they did their design with bosses, it's like a lot of bosses, the game gives you just enough information that you don't have to think too hard. It'll hit you. Like, let's say there's a boss weak to his, you're attacking him and you're doing 0 damage, and then, there'll be a text that pops up that says something about, he doesn't like electricity. Well, then you start hitting him with thunderbolts, and all of a sudden his defense goes down, and you can damage him. So to help, the feedback I got with the eagle was it was kind of just a spam attack and then heal, spam attack, heal. And I agree. I noticed it from the minute I programmed it and was test playing it. I just wanted to get a functional version up, so I uploaded it because I knew I was running out of time. I was starting work again, running out of time to develop and get as much done in the amount of time I got this little chunk of the game done when I was off. So I went back and I actually started adding. I added to him. So basically he has a weakness, and you have to, with the help of text popping up on screen when you're attacking him, your skills are actually his weakness. So when you use a skill, you see, oh, dude, that's doing like 4 times the damage. So you start racking it up. So really, it's really helpful to get your SP, which is the red bar in that top left corner, your skill points, flashing, so they're fully charged, so you can use your skill and do more damage on that eagle. So I'm trying to keep that in mind moving forward with any bosses or enemies that I program. And I'm sure this is all day one stuff for most of you guys. I don't know, dude. I'm constantly watching. That's what I do on YouTube, is I'll watch videos about all the retro stuff, all the old classic games, and what was done well on them and what wasn't. And I just kind of try to gauge how I develop off of that when I'm trying to design enemies, or like a boss. Boss battles are hard, man. All enemies are hard. It's hard enough on a turn-based built into the system. It's pretty hard when you're get an RPG maker to do a whole game that it wasn't designed to make. Oh, that's weird. Found a little graphical error. Nice. How embarrassing. Oh, here we go. Got a little boss fight for you. I wasn't sure if I'd beat him in this little test run or not. So I didn't change anything with the Boom Bloom. He's pretty typical watch patterns, and just avoid the little bouncing ball he shoots at you. But it's kind of a fun little fight, I think. Got to stay away from him when he's jumping. And I'm sure there's all sorts of graphical errors going to pop up while I'm recording this, but Oh, here we go. Did some damage to me. Oh, look. Got a skill attack. But so I didn't change anything with him because it's the first boss of the game. I think that first initial boss is like, you know, as a player, you've been playing just the regular enemies, pretty simple enemies. We got the little blue cobalt guys, and then the little mushroom guys. Oh shoot, I'm gonna die at my own game. So as the player, you had those little cobalts and the mushroom guys that you're fighting. Just kind of run around, swing, you know, run in, slash them, run out, hack and run, hack and dash. And oh, sorry, I'm getting into this. So the first boss, when you get to the first boss, it's kind of just testing the player's what he's learned so far. And so far we've learned to run, avoid enemy attacks, and actually, if you're playing this game for the first time, you might not even have any sword skills yet. You might have just ran in here. So that's why the eagle is set up for his weakness to be skills, because it's assumed that the player at that point will have his skills available and one equipped, and he can start using the skills when that red bar is full. And I did get some feedback. I didn't get a lot of feedback on the combat. I think Kempfer made a comment that he thought it was smooth. He liked it. I don't know if skills were implemented when he gave me that feedback. But I'm gonna have to edit this, man. Can't think fast enough. But anyways, I didn't get a lot of feedback on the skill implementation, which I don't know if that's a bad thing. Really, I did get one bit of feedback, and he was pretty critical of the skills. So you go for the skill use, you go to your menu, skill, and you instead of choosing a skill to use at that moment, you would equip a skill. So as you level up and your sword levels up, you have all these different skills that you'll learn naturally progressing. So this is the first one you learn, you equip it, and anytime your skill points are full, the red bar is completely full flashing. When you hit your attack button, if there's an enemy in range, it'll automatically prompt you to... let's let him hit me. Let's get that skill filled up. Oh. So now that red bar's flashing, and I can use the skill once these guys stop killing me. Okay, so now if I'm close to an enemy and I go to swing, it automatically prompts that. It kind of pauses the screen, and if there's an enemy in range, multiple enemies, he's too far away. The bird on the bottom left, I can't get him, but this guy's in range. So it'll automatically go to that, and then just hitting the attack button again will execute that skill. The feedback I got on that, the only feedback I really heard on it was the guy didn't care for it. He said he thought I should have gone with more of a secret mana approach where you pause the game. So I would pause, go in here, choose the skill, and then it would decide what enemy is going to attack. Obviously recognize the value in that, but I thought, I don't know, my mindset when developing the battle system, part of it was I want it to be somewhat autonomous, a little more action, still heavily RPG stat based, but I did want the action somewhat autonomous. So you equip whatever single skill you want, and if you don't want to use a skill every time your skill bar fills up, you would just unequip the skill, and you can run around and swing your sword and never execute it until you want to. Then you can go in and equip it and do that way, which is, I don't see anybody doing that, but that's an option if you wanted to. But that's how he felt. I was a little too I really appreciated the feedback, but I was just a little too deep into how everything functions. And I'm personally, I like my skill system. So, you know, as a developer, pick your poison, stick with what you like. If it is the vision that you have, which it was. On the contrary, the magic system in the game works exactly like that. You would go into the magic menu, and if you had magic, I don't. And and pick a spell, and then it'll take you to the enemy select. So that works more generically. The skills, I didn't want them to function the same, and I wanted it to be more of the action continues. The only thing you have to do is select what enemy you got to hit. And the way I play, I find that, you know, I think I can't remember who it was that had said they didn't care for the skill execution. But the way I play is me playing it, knowing how I developed it or knowing how I made the game to work. You know, if your skill points are full, that means you're getting hit like a lot. You're taking a lot of damage because that's how your skill points fill up. And if you're taking a lot of damage, to have that little icon pop up, even if you are just mashing the attack button and by accident you execute the skill, the worst that can happen is you attack the wrong, maybe not the enemy that you wanted to. And I understand that being an issue, but worst case scenario, you're still executing a skill doing, you know, multiple times the damage that you would have with a normal attack. And that's kind of where I'm at on that. I don't know if that explanation helps my thought process at all, but yeah, we got a little skippiness going on. Maybe it's recording correctly. I doubt it. I feel like I'm going to be seeing this skip. Why wouldn't it? Oh yeah, it's getting pretty laggy. Well, I'm getting a little lag in this, so oh boy. So right now you see these back to the autonomous statement that I made. You see my guy, he gets down to a certain amount of hit points, and I'm not pressing the item button to make him use that healing item. The game, I have a parallel process set up to where if you have that item, once you get below 15%, if you're not dead, it'll execute that item use and you'll just use your healing item. Now, that's not standard in the game from the beginning, but one of two things are going to happen. There's only a couple healing items in the game. So later on, there's going to be armor. Let's say, I haven't decided, you know, what it's going to be called. I don't know, cobalt armor or something like that. Cobalt shirt. I think I'm using shirts for my armor in the game. It'll be a feature of like armor that you wear that if you have, you don't have to have it equipped, but if you have, let's say, cobalt hearts in your inventory, once you get below 10 or 15%, it's going to execute that item use, and it'll help the player. It'll be beneficial as to not have to have the one item that you have equipped that you can use. It won't have to be a healing item. You could have something else in there. Let's say if I have a buff item that debuffs an enemy, it's like you could have that equipped maybe on a boss that you have to debuff. But you can your guy will still automatically execute that healing item without you even having to think about it. And I set it up for test playing to have that function always going, and I personally actually really enjoy it. I think as a player, it'd be really helpful to not have to have that. Go into your menu, equip that different item to use it once, go back, equip back the debuff item or something. So I don't know. It helps a lot with test playing, and I think if just playing, if you were just playing as a player, I think it wouldn't be hated. See, like this, I just got smashed and it was pretty simple. I didn't realize I was going to use my skill, but it just popped up and I was able to see what was going on and go for it. Look at this big bitch. Oh, he's hitting the ground. He's got some defense. Nice, we got him. All right, let's get ourselves some cobalt hearts. Yeah, I've probably test played this game 10,000 times, man. If I got paid to test play my own game, I'd be a millionaire. Oh, I guess I lost video. Well, my video stopped recording, so that's a good place to wrap it up anyways, guys. I just felt like playing, I haven't made a video in a long time for anything, and I thought it'd be fun. I really wanted to show off his running animation and the pan screen, see what you guys have to say about it. Maybe it'll interest I don't have the latest version uploaded right now, so if you were to download it, my game, it wouldn't have any of the new features going on in it. So don't do it right now if it was the features that you're trying to do. Yeah, this is really laggy. but it's coming. I just gonna see what the response was to this video, and if people, because there's not a lot of added content. I've mostly been refining things in it. The combat, some of the bosses. When I get a chance, I just work on pixel art that I haven't added most of the stuff that I've drawn in the past few months. But I wanted to get a feel for what everyone thinks about the running animation, the pan screen with the enemies on screen. I think it adds something. It's kind of a smart pan, and I think it adds something unique that makes it just stand out a little more from the typical RPG Maker. Oh God, got a boom bloom. The typical RPG Maker game you might find on there. I missed them. Oh shit. So let me know. Leave a comment under this video, or hit me up on a private message. Either way, I always check RMN. I kind of it's fun for me. I like to get messages and log in and see that I have comments on my game. I always check my downloads, see if I got any new downloads. They're pretty slow now. I haven't been really doing anything with the game, so yeah, hit me up. Let me know what you think, and if I get a lot of response, I'll upload this, even though there's not much new content, and we'll see what you guys think about it. All right, man. Take care, guys.